Hello everybody, my name is Kyle, and in this video I want to revisit the topic of Pjax navigation. Now, if you haven't seen my last video about it, the introduction to Pjax, I highly recommend you check that out. Although I didn't do a great job producing or providing any business cases for why your clients or your team or even really you would want to utilize Pjax other than some visual stuff and some user experience stuff. And as I've been trying to push the idea of Pjax within my own organization, I found that just the better user experience portion of Pjax doesn't get the stakeholders excited, and whether it comes down to budget or time frames and management trying to figure out how to plan stuff out appropriately and schedule out the development time, usually what I've seen is some stuff like Pjax and some of the things that really enhance the user experience gets pushed farther and farther back in the project, and then typically I see it left as just a bunch of to-do comments and it never really gets implemented. So after observing this for a little while, I decided that it's time to put together a few business cases for why the stakeholders should care about Pjax navigation. Now, before we jump into the actual business cases for it, and talking through a real-world example of when I utilized Pjax navigation, I want to address a comment from the last video. To paraphrase, it was something along the lines of single-page applications and their frameworks like React already exist, so why use Pjax navigation? And there's a couple reasons for it. First off, with the new changes to Google Lighthouse 6.0, the new cumulative layout shifting score, it really hurts your performance. And low performance then hurts your SEO rankings, and low performance websites aren't going to receive that fast page badge on the Chromium browsers. Now, you could argue a counterpoint that, well, we can just use Next.js and then do all our rendering on the server, and you should. But sometimes you can't always rely on these UI frameworks. Sometimes you may need to use a server-side rendering framework or a content management system like WordPress or Symfony or Laravel, and there's a bunch of different ones, but you get the idea. So what do you do when you need or have to use a server-side rendering system, but you also have components on the front end that need to be rendered on the client side, and you don't want to have to re-render them and reinstantiate these components every time you load a new page? Well, that's the perfect time to use Pjax navigation. So now that we've addressed why you'd want to utilize something like Pjax navigation over a single-page application, let's try to get some buy-in from our stakeholders. What worked for me and my stakeholders was bringing up these 4 facts. The sources for these facts will be linked down in the description below. The first one was Walmart saw a 2% increase in conversions for every 1 second of improvement in load time. So every 100 milliseconds improved also resulted in a 1% increase in revenue. Amazon sees a 1% decrease in revenue for every 100 milliseconds increased to their load times. AliExpress reduced their load time by 36% and saw a 10.5 increase in orders and a 27% increase in conversion for new customers. And according to Google, for every 2 seconds a website takes to load, the bounce rate goes up by 50%. Now, I am still relatively new to this industry, but I've yet to see a stakeholder that does not want to make more money or retain more users. So these examples from real-world companies with real-world data should help sell them on the idea that a better, faster user experience is going to produce more money or a better conversion for them, or keeping the users on the website longer consuming their content. Now, again, why does Pjax help with this? Besides the maintaining a persistent state, you can do the prefetching, and that can, depending on the user's connection, reduce the page loading times or even make them feel instant. And then there's some other UI changes you can do to help make a user feel stuff goes faster. There'll be a link in the description for a video that discusses how to trick users into thinking a page loads faster. So now let's get into a real-world example where I utilized Pjax. I had a website that was server-side rendering through a content management system. However, the user and the e-commerce data was stored in Firebase because it was used for their iOS and Android app. We had several static components that existed outside of the primary content of the website that needed to be client-side rendered using the Firebase data. By using Pjax navigation, we were able to remove the redundant lag time for the client-side rendering components that existed within the header. So for example, we had a global preferred store location widget that by default would pick a store based on their geo IP. However, if the user was logged into Firebase, we would have to re-render that widget in order to provide all the details for what they've selected as their preferred store. Without Pjax, on every page load, that swap would happen and we'd have to re-render because we'd have to reestablish that Firebase connection. However, by using Pjax, we could keep the UI from feeling janky, and it actually performed better on low-end devices since they didn't have to parse and re-render all those global components on every page load. So to basically wrap this all up, using Pjax navigation for server-side rendering websites and applications can overall provide a better and faster user experience while helping the clients and the stakeholders achieve their business goals. As always, my name is Kyle, and thank you for watching.